Activision Blizzard continues to be embroiled in controversy. They're currently facing a lawsuit from the DFEH, scrutiny from various government organizations, most recently including 6 state treasurers who called on Bobby Kotick to explain himself. Protests, strikes, walkouts, lawsuits, letters, and petitions from employees, mass backlash from gaming enthusiasts and the gaming community at large, criticisms and investigations from various media outlets, lawsuits and complaints from investors, sponsors pulling out, getting called out by Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo bosses almost at the same time, and calls for Bobby Kotick to resign after the bombshell Wall Street Journal article exposed that not only was Bobby Kotick fully aware and ignored all of the harassment happening in his company right under his nose, he was also himself an abuser on numerous occasions. And on top of all of that, now a new wave of protests, strikes, walkouts, and refusals to work is ramping up, with reports that Activision Blizzard fired a bunch of developers after promising them that they would get pay raises. This was reported by Twitter user AOB, who tweeted the following thread that kind of kickstarted this whole situation. "I'm gutted right now. My friends in QA at Raven," Raven, for those who don't know, is the development studio behind Call of Duty Warzone, "were promised for months that Activision was working towards a pay restructure to increase their wages. Today, one by one, valuable members of the team were called into meetings and told they were being let go." The story gets even worse as we scroll down here and read the rest of this thread. "These people were asked to relocate to Madison, Wisconsin to work here. Now they're out of a job on January 28th. Our QA team does incredible work, but this will not only increase their workload, but crush morale. If any industry friends have open positions, please share them. If it isn't clear, this is BS. It's unfair to these people to string them along, promising something better, and then let them go. I am infuriated right now, and rightfully so." I mean, these workers were straight up conned. They were made promises of a greater tomorrow, only for that to have never been the plan, only for them to be disposed as if they were fodder that is no longer usable, no longer financially relevant to the company, whatever the mindset might be. It is still extremely messed up. And QA testers are among the most mistreated and disregarded employees in the gaming industry. Just the low level of protection that they generally have, combined with the general stigma that all they do is play games when there is a specific discipline when it comes to QA testing, discovering bugs, and all these things. It's not as glamorous as people might think that profession to be. And they're just treated like crap despite the important role that they play in ensuring that games launch in an adequate state. Now, with the spread of this story, Bloomberg investigative reporter Jason Schreier has been speaking to Activision Blizzard employees, and one of his sources relayed that this whole situation is really painful, and Jason noted that, FYI, Warzone generated $1.93 billion last year, almost $2 billion, according to a super data estimate. So yeah, suffice to say that Activision Blizzard can absolutely afford to keep these laid off employees around, but to them it's all about maximizing profit above all else. I mean, we're talking about a company that during a record year of revenue, they decided to cut nearly 800 jobs with no real good reason in the year that they could most afford to keep around all of their employees because of just how much money the company made. They decided to cast aside the most amount of employees. Utterly ridiculous. Now, going back to Jason Schreier, he added additional context. I've been in touch with about half a dozen Raven testers tonight. The company's informing them individually whether or not they're being laid off, but some don't have their meeting scheduled until next week, so they head into the weekend not knowing if they still have jobs. As if Activision Blizzard's treatment of employees wasn't bad enough, they're deciding to put in the knife slowly and painfully and let these people essentially go into the weekend wondering whether their livelihoods will be upended or not. Here we have another industry insider who tweeted about the situation. According to one of my sources, an entire group of QA testers was moved to work on Warzone's Pacific map weeks before the layoffs at Raven were announced. Raven is the studio in charge of QA for Warzone. In short, this means Activision moved over another of their internal teams to work on a project they then fired people for, despite the immense scale of the testing Warzone's Pacific map apparently needed. Basically, Activision Texas testers were moved onto the project because of its immense needs with regards to immense needs with regards to testing, then fired 30% of Raven's QA staff who were originally working on the project. Then the Raven employees were laid off. The Activision Texas testers didn't do the firing, LOL. Now keep in mind, this is all happening while Activision Blizzard is facing scrutiny on all sides for their culture of harassment and discrimination and the company's general disregard for employees. So you can only imagine how much this has fueled the fire that is raging against Activision Blizzard, with employees engaging in yet another walkout. According to Jason Schreier's tweets here, filed to Bloomberg Terminal, most of a team of around 40 QA testers at Raven Software, which works on Call of Duty Warzone, are walking off the job to protest the sudden layoff that began on Friday. They say they'll be walking out until the layoff is reversed. This will mark Activision Blizzard's third walkout since July of 2021, which was when employees first walked out because of that awful statement that Fran Townsend sent to employees that basically dismissed all of their claimed that the DFEH lawsuit had misleading information when all of the employees were corroborating the facts presented by the DFEH. Though also that letter, turns out, was actually written by Bobby Kotick, who asked Fran Townsend to send it so that he could, like a coward, hide behind another scumbag executive. So this was the first walkout, July 2021. The second one happened not that long ago, November of 2021, when Wall Street Journal released that bombshell article about Bobby Kotick's own involvement in the culture of harassment. Following the release of this article, employees walked out demanding that Bobby Kotick resign, which is something that thus far Bobby has 100% refused to do. But you never know, with Bobby Kotick in particular facing admonishment on all fronts, he may eventually become too much of a liability for the company to keep him around, and it might eventually be decided that he has to go if pressure continues to mount, if scrutiny continues to build, if we don't let up as a unified front. Government officials, media, other developers and publishers, the gaming community, you name it, in pressuring Bobby Kotick to resign because his tenure is over. There is just no forgiveness, no redemption to be had here. He's had 30 years to fix the company, and in all that time, he's chosen corruption and negligence and complacency. This finally brings us to a statement that was released by Raven developers, where they expressed their sentiments surrounding the awful way that Activision Blizzard laid off a bunch of QA testers and their intentions behind the walkout. Here's what that reads like. On Friday, December 3rd, 12 of Raven Software's quality assurance testers were brought into individual meetings and informed that their contracts would be terminated on January 28th. These individuals were let go in good standing, meaning that they had not underperformed or committed any fireable offense. The majority of those who were not let go on December 3rd are still unsure about the status of their employment. These personnel cuts come after 5 weeks of overtime and before an anticipated end-of-year crunch. The QA team, which at this point in time mainly works on Call of Duty Warzone so far, has been reduced by just over 30%. A department that is in desperate need of more manpower, given all the crunch that they've already been engaged in, is being cut by 30%, which will only further increase the workload and crunch for the people who remain. It'll make the employees who made it more miserable, and of course the employees who've been laid off, they'll be miserable as well. It's just a miserable decision across the board for a multi-billion-dollar company that keeps raking in hundreds of millions to billions of dollars every year. The statement continues, this team was told multiple times by Raven leadership that there were positive departmental changes coming. These upcoming changes were also used as the reason why no members of the team received standard promotions or raises that were meant to be in place by March of 2021. So again, there's that the promise of a better tomorrow, that they're reworking things so that employees can be happier and they can get paid more. Turns out that was just a carrot dangled in front of employees, only for that carrot to turn out to be disguised bullshit. The 12 individuals who have been let go so far are considered by their colleagues to be essential to the everyday functioning of the Raven QA team. Several of those who were let go recently relocated to Wisconsin in anticipation of the return to in-person work. They did so without relocation assistance from Raven due to reassurances from the studio that their workload was consistent. Call of Duty Warzone, which recently announced the release of a new map and integration with the Call of Duty Vanguard title, earns $5.2 million per day. Just 1 day's worth of revenue for that game could cover all of these employees. And yet, during these tumultuous times for Activision Blizzard, the company has the audacity to try to justify the laying off of these employees. Employees, by the way, who performed admirably, who did their jobs, who are in good standing with the company and are considered essential to this team that is so key to ensuring that Call of Duty Warzone is in a good state. Some of who uprooted their entire lives and moved to Wisconsin only to be fired immediately thereafter. Moving on. In response to the events of Friday, the Raven QA team and other members of Raven's staff will be walking out with a singular demand. Every member of the QA team, including those terminated on Friday, must be offered full-time positions. Those participating in this demonstration do so with the continued success of the studio at the forefront of their mind. The Raven QA department is essential to the day-to-day functioning of the studio as a whole. Terminating the contracts of high-performing testers in a time of consistent work and profit puts the health of the studio at risk. Additionally, these actions go directly against the positive culture that Raven has created over the years. The end goal of this walkout is to ensure the continued growth of Raven as a studio and to foster a positive community for everyone who works here. It goes without saying that this story was picked up by a number of outlets, including Bloomberg. Here's Jason Schreier's article on the matter. Activision's Call of Duty game testers plan walkout over job cuts. The dispute reflects a broader labor movement at the video game publisher. And scrolling down, you'll find all of the details. That statement you saw in the Google Drive was a letter sent to management of their studio Raven Software that was also made public, and Bloomberg further details how the job cuts specifically targeted a team of contractors and that the staff wasn't given a clear justification for the dismissals, because there is no good justification. What are they going to say? We don't have the money for it? Come on. The game that makes over $5 million a day can't afford to keep its QA testers who make pennies compared to executives around? Yeah. Okay. Activision tried to explain that this was part of a restructuring that will convert about 500 temps to full-time, and indeed there was news about this when a Better ABK's official Twitter account tweeted about this on December 6, 2021. The tweet reads, "We'd like to take a moment to celebrate our Treyarch TEA colleagues being shifted to full-time employment. This is something we have been advocating for a long time." But a Better ABK made it a point to note that in light of recent events, there is no excuse for the company to lay off 30% of Raven's QA department while simultaneously making all Treyarch TAs full-time employees. That's the thing. I don't know how making temp workers into full-time workers would affect these other 20 temporary workers who Activision Blizzard can very clearly afford to keep around and who are clearly beloved by their colleagues and the QA team for Raven. Bloomberg also brings up how Warzone generates $5.2 million a day and makes an estimated $2 billion a year. Now, fortunately, Raven employees in the QA department are not taking this lying down, with one QA tester on the team, Alex Dupont, saying that they could extend their strike indefinitely if the company doesn't acquiesce. So unlike previous walkouts and strikes, which lasted for a day, this one could go on for a couple days or however long they deem is necessary to ensure that Activision Blizzard meets their demands. Though unsurprisingly, so far the response from management has been disappointing as of December 6, 2021. In a statement given to Kotaku, the protesting group wrote this: "Leadership have repeatedly said that these are not layoffs but a termination of a contract." This is basically the same level of argument as these are not loot boxes, these are surprise mechanics. Like, who the hell do you think you're fooling? You can give it whatever name you want, Activision Blizzard. The fact remains that you took these people's livelihoods and destroyed it. Regardless of how you want to phrase it, you terminated their jobs after promising them better things in the future, after promising them a long-term future at the company, after promising pay raises and various other benefits, a better work environment, you name it. You did this. You conned these employees. And some people have had enough of Activision Blizzard's BS, namely Jessica Gonzalez, who is the founder and organizer of A Better ABK. She's kind of been at the forefront fighting for employees, and on December 7th, she said, "Today, all of ABK QA joins Raven in solidarity. We're walking out because our jobs are invaluable, and it's unacceptable for a multi-billion-dollar company to toy with workers' livelihoods to get better numbers in Q4. Today, we are Raven." Jessica, by the way, is a former Activision Blizzard employee who resigned on November 30th, 2021 after the BS just got too much, but she's still fighting at the forefront of this A Better ABK organization and initiative, and she's not letting this slide, which is awesome. On December 7th, she also tweeted, Raven QA deserves better, hashtag we're Raven, I stand with Raven and all of ABK, hashtag fire Bobby Kotick for being an abusive CEO and ruining lives. Now, unlike the previous two walkouts, this walkout is actually lasting more than one day and it's growing in size. A Better ABK tweeted on December 7th, today workers from Raven QA are walking out for the second day in a row. They're joined by workers from Activision Texas and Activision Minnesota and Blizzard QA. These workers are standing in solidarity with a statement Raven QA put forward yesterday. They're using the social media hashtag #WeAreRaven. And you've even got developers outside of Activision Blizzard expressing their solidarity, like Melissa here, quality engineer at Xbox and at Minecraft. She tweeted, mobilizing multiple QA employees across the country to walk out close to the holidays, and doing so knowing they're some of the most vulnerable in the industry is incredible. I stand with them and I hope you do as well. So yeah, suffice to say that Activision Blizzard has kickstarted yet another shitstorm on top of the one that they're already dealing with by pulling this dumbass immoral move. The walkout then would go on for a third day on December 8th, 2021. A Better ABK tweeted, for those of Blizzard QA who have continued to walk without the certainty of pay, thank you. We know this is an incredibly frightening time to be without income, and we're grateful for your solidarity and devotion to our peers. The following day on December 8th, A Better ABK tweeted about how they confirmed that those who were let go weren't terminated because of poor performance. Performance was not a relying factor, employees were told, which is BS. If somebody's performing really well, then they shouldn't be punished for it. But Activision Blizzard doesn't think of employees in terms of human beings and, good performers being encouraged and bad performers being discouraged. They just think in terms of who's useful, who isn't, in what moment, and if you're not making us money, then we don't care about you. You're disposable. You're expendable. And I mean, in this case, these are people who are making Activision Blizzard money by being QA testers whose feedback is invaluable for a title like Call of Duty Warzone. Though I guess Call of Duty Warzone has been out for a while now. Maybe Activision Blizzard deemed that QA testers are no longer as necessary, so they laid off 30% and are giving the rest of the workload to the remaining folks who are constantly testing the game as new updates and new content releases for this ongoing live service. They're going to be overworked now, more so than they already were. Just a crappy situation for everyone. Now, in parallel to all of that, something else happened. An employee spoke out to the press. Lisa Bloom, who is a legal representative of the Blizzard employee, gave out a statement. She said, our press release for our press conference tomorrow at the Irvine headquarters, where we will demand accountability for the victims who have been subjected to harassment at the video game company. Lisa's from the Bloom firm law firm, and in her pre-press conference statement, she said, a woman currently employed at Blizzard Entertainment and her attorney, Lisa Bloom, will describe the alcohol-soaked culture of harassment the woman endured, including numerous come-ons and physical touching, and the retaliation she experienced after she reported the harassment. It will be the first time this Blizzard harassment victim has spoken out publicly. All are welcome to attend and show support. Among the attendees was investigative reporter Jason Schreier, who, in a follow-up tweet, detailed a synopsis of what was relayed. A Blizzard employee named Christine says she was subjected to sexual harassment proposition by a manager and faced retaliation for complaining. Lawyer Lisa Bloom calls for more compensation for victims and outside review from a third party. This is all further detailed in The Verge's article, whose headline reads, Blizzard victim says she was demoted after reporting harassment. Basically, she reported that she was subjected to inappropriate touching, rude comments about her body, and invitations to have intimate relations with her supervisors. And of course, when Christine reported this to HR, they were completely dismissive of this, saying that they were just joking and that they did nothing wrong. By law, morals aside, as long as it's not technically illegal, then anything flies, I guess, according to HR. And then Christine alleges that after making the reports to HR, she was demoted, denied her full profit-sharing benefits, and received minimal raises in the 4 years of her employment at Blizzard. As for the demands that Christine's lawyer Lisa Bloom outlined, there are 3 demands that she put out there: a streamlined process for victims to resolve their claims with an increased compensation fund in excess of $100 million, basically criticizing the EEOC's settlement of $18 million, which is basically pennies for a major corporation like Activision Blizzard. A real apology from corporate leadership, good luck with that one, and if they do issue an apology, good luck on that apology being real. And an investigation by a neutral third party into the damage Activision Blizzard's culture of harassment has had on employees' careers, and a plan to repair that damage. good luck with that one as well. The reason Activision Blizzard hired WilmerHale is because they have relationships with this union-busting firm that can aid the company. They don't want to bring a third party because they know about all of the skeletons hiding in their closets and under the rug that they don't want to see exposed. So they're going to do everything in their power to ensure that a third party that can actually hold them accountable can't perform an adequate investigation. Oh, but there's more. As if Christine's story wasn't enough to piss you off, Jessica Gonzalez on December 8th tweeted about an employee who discussed elements of how breastfeeding workers are treated like crap and are not given appropriate facilities. If you've ever wanted a prime example of discrimination at Activision Blizzard King, this is it. This kind of negligence towards breastfeeding workers is criminal anywhere else, but it happened daily at Blizzard. Accommodating should be an afterthought. We can and should do better by our workers. And scrolling through this statement, you will see bullet points of all of the ways that breastfeeding facilities have been completely inadequate and have not been looked after, but also the way employees treat women in these conditions is just awful. Number 5 here, for example, refrigerators had padlocks that were not consistently locked or could be accessed by other employees. Employees were using the fridges to store their beer in. Now, the fact that the refrigerators needed a padlock at all says a lot. The reason there were locks on them in the first place is that nursing people's breast milk would be stolen. They literally stole food from a baby and a mother trying to raise her baby. Think about how messed up that actually is. And that's all on top of the lack of general standards with these rooms and facilities, like how no one was keeping up with sanitation standards even. And there are multiple people who have corroborated this, by the way. Here we have a security officer at Activision Blizzard, Stephanie Leon, who expressed how sick and tired she was of some of the crazy and awful behavior she has seen against women at Activision Blizzard. Here we have a former Blizzard producer who corroborated this and who said she may be the source of this story. I can corroborate this and I'm likely the origin of this statement, though I don't remember telling this specific person. And scrolling down, you'll find the entire thread detailing exactly what happened, and it's as horrible a story as you might expect from this company. And of course, the gaming community at large are disgusted that this is a thing that can happen, with Elena Gray here, for example, tweeting, "You think the situation at Activision Blizzard can't get any worse," and then you read about how men would steal their coworkers' breast milk, and this tweet has gone viral with over 60,000 likes and 10,000 retweets. This finally brings us to the following day, December 9th, when a Better ABK officially announced plans to strike. Today, the ABK Workers Alliance announces the initiation of its strike. We encourage our peers in the game industry to stand with us in creating lasting change. For those who wish to join in solidarity, please consider donating to our strike fund. And I will list this GoFundMe in the description and comments below, but here's what that looks like. In just a couple days, it's already garnered over $275,000 in donations. And the goal behind this fund is to essentially help financially support striking workers. The funds are to be distributed fairly and appropriately to support our striking coworkers. So it is a good cause, very much so. Now, that same day, a Better ABK tweeted a clarification on this specific strike and how its current main goal is to ensure that the Raven QA employees who were let go are given full-time employment, but obviously, there are multiple protests taking place at once, and this is just one of them. Protests are also happening on the side when it comes to unionization and ensuring that leaders meet employees' demands instead of pussyfooting around. Speaking of unionization, on December 9th, a senior UI engineer at Blizzard tweeted about how the unionization plans have been made public, and he kind of explained details as to the process and what can be accomplished with this. Okay, so it's been made public that we have given people at Activision Blizzard King union authorization cards. I want to take a second to outline what that means and why we took this step. And I won't go through all of this, as he goes into very specific details about how this whole process works and what an uphill battle it is. He did say generally most game companies have done a good enough job working with employees to include their voices that workers haven't felt the need to unionize. But with Activision Blizzard, the workers' feedback is so readily and consistently ignored, with Activision Blizzard executives constantly pretending like employees matter and like their voices matter, like they're being listened to, without actually showing that through their actions. That this is a special case where unionization is very seriously being considered, and that might create a domino effect where the games industry as a whole might go into unionization, as in far too many studios, workers are mistreated and have very little recourse when it comes to defending themselves, protection, and being able to seek out justice. Valentine Powell here also expressed that we have partnered over the last few months with Code CWA and are also working with partner organizations in other countries as well. And Code CWA, for those who don't know, is the Communications Workers of America, one of the largest unions in this country. And back in September of 2021, recall that they helped Activision Blizzard employees file an unfair labor practice charge against the company. This is where they detailed how Activision Blizzard was using coercive tactics to try to keep employees quiet, to try to keep them from speaking out, to bury this whole thing under the rug. And so this charge and complaint was filed to the National Labor Relations Board, and we're still waiting to hear back on how all of that develops, but they have very much been a strong ally for Activision Blizzard workers, and it's through this union organization that Activision Blizzard have been looking into unionizing and gaining some power to enact positive change. So that's that for December 9th. That brings us to the following day, December 10th, when this guy right here, Brian Bulatao, former Trump administration politician turned Activision Blizzard executive, made headlines because of the scummy statement he sent to employees, basically threatening anyone who dares to consider unionization. Much like Fran Townsend, this former politician is notorious for some of the abominable ideals that he stands for. The fact that a company hires these kinds of people to be executives tells you a lot about its leadership. But yeah, Activision executive Brian Bulatao, who previously worked for the Trump administration, sent an email to staff this morning saying to consider the consequences of your signature on union cards. A Better ABK founder and organizer, Jessica Gonzalez, got a hold of this email and tweeted it out for the public to see. I'd like to take a look at portions of it to give you an idea for the kind of messaging that is relayed here. The email begins by once again expressing how they're dedicated to a more inclusive, supportive, and rewarding environment. Just saying that over and over again isn't gonna turn it into reality. Actions obviously matter more than anything, and Activision Blizzard's actions have proven opposite to their words. But yeah, more empty platitudes about all of the useless initiatives that they've taken that do not adhere to the employees' demands. And then here's the important bit. As you may have seen yesterday, there was a communication supported by the Communications Workers of America, the CWA, that asked employees to sign and submit union authorization cards. I want to be clear about this. The leadership of Activision Blizzard supports your right under the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, to make your own decision about whether or not to join a union. As you make this decision for your future, we ask only that you take time to consider the consequences of your signature on the binding legal document presented to you by the CWA. Talk about a veiled threat. This guy says that he supports employees' rights to unionize because he's legally supposed to say that, because there are laws that protect this kind of thing. But underneath all that is a semblance of beware the consequences. What you basically have here is your boilerplate union-busting statement that tries to instill fear in employees who are considering unionization with veiled threats of consequences and warnings of what could happen if you decide to go down this course, and trying to give off this vibe that this is a very bad thing to do. We support your right legally to do it, but consider this. It's all fear tactics. You're better off unionizing at this point with the negligence that Activision Blizzard's leadership continues to show. And the CWA union organization that Activision Blizzard employees partnered with echoed similar sentiments in a statement to The Verge that reads, instead of responding to their workers' concerns, have opted to blast the most tired anti-union talking points straight from the union-busting script. Like, this is all union-busting 101 tactics. Union avoidance campaigns waste resources that ABK management could otherwise be using to address the serious concerns of the company, such as compensating the victims of harassment and discrimination. They're putting much more dedication in ensuring employees don't unionize than actually resolving the issues for why employees are deciding to unionize in the first place. Oh, and one more thing about Brian Bulatao and the way he interacts with employees. He's a scumbag on that front too, as reported here by Aubrey Ryan, who tweeted, with Brian Bulatao in the media, I need to talk about my experience. Brian Bulatao called my personal cell in order to intimidate me over an initiative I had begun in the company about WFH equity. WFH standing for work from home. After raising these concerns, Bobby Kotick actually responded and set up a meeting between her and Brian, but then the meeting came and went, and apparently he didn't show up. Eventually, he called Aubrey on her cell and basically tried to get her to back down, to talk over her, and drop notes about his time in the CIA. Basically, your classic intimidation tactic from an executive who is high up in the food chain. Aubrey concluded her statement with the imbalance of power, the lack of third-party accountability, and the raw aggression involved in the act was incredibly staggering. Now, Jessica eventually got wind of this story and basically talks about how much of a bully executives can be, and to encourage her Activision Blizzard cohort, she tweeted out, "To my Activision Blizzard friends, document every interaction. They may bully managers, leaders, etc. Work may become more hostile. They'll try to separate and corner you. Do not give in to corporate greed. Stand with your fellow workers. Open communication with each other. Don't let your managers get bullied. They may try to fire and make an example out of people. Do not give in." And then there are other nefarious tactics from Activision Blizzard leaders that Jessica also called out the following day on December 11th in this tweet that reads, "Heard that QA Minnesota workers were told to work until lunch and then walk out every day. Do not do this. Intermittent striking is not protected. They are banking on you not knowing your rights. Do not clock in. Send your email." Wait, what is out of office message. So send your email and out of office message, and that's it. Stuff like this is all you need to truly comprehend how full of crap these Activision Blizzard executives are when they say they're committed to ensuring that the work culture of Activision Blizzard improves and that they're committed to inclusivity and all of these things that they absolutely do not stand for. Everything they've said is for face saving, to protect the company and the corporation, not to actually show remorse and to show signs that they feel shame and that they genuinely feel like something has to be corrected. They're just placating. And a better ABK very much called them out on that on December 11th with this tweet, with a quote first that reads, "Achieving our workplace culture aspiration will best occur through active, transparent dialogue between leaders and employees that we can act upon quickly." This is a quote taken directly from Brian's statement, as you can see right here in this paragraph. And a better ABK is basically asking leadership, live up to your own words, which seems to be an impossibility for them because they don't mean what they say. But with all said and done, the important thing is that this conversation is continuing, and the fire has only gotten bigger after Activision fired those QA testers for no good reason, despite doing really great work and continuing to show their disregard for their employees. It's only instigated more strikes, more call-outs from media outlets, more scrutiny from government officials, more protests, more rebellions, more refusals from employees to work, and further motivated developers and workers in the games industry to frickin' unionize, because it's very clear that these executives are not willing to have a two-way street kind of situation and conversation with workers. They don't want workers to have any power or just to have basic human decency in their work environment. So understandably, these employees have had enough and they're pursuing the most drastic measures possible, as they absolutely deserve to at this stage, given Activision Blizzard's stubbornness and their refusal to meet their employees halfway on an issue that has a very clear right and wrong. And that isn't a misconstruing of the facts and a misinterpretation of the facts or whatever Activision Blizzard wants to claim at this point. With how many employees have spoken out, it's abundantly clear something's very wrong within the company, and Activision Blizzard is actively going against employees trying to change the company for the better. So suffice to say that drastic action has been a long time coming, and I hope there's a snowball that will keep running down the hill and get bigger until it becomes unstoppable, even for corporate giants like Activision Blizzard and rich, powerful, influential pieces of craps like Bobby Kotick. But I guess only time will tell. Until then, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the latest surrounding Activision Blizzard. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.